If you watched any of my recent videos, it's not too hard to know that I have kind of a love-hate relationship with the iPad. On one hand, it is some of the best hardware that I think has ever been made, even though the design of the current iPad Pro is basically the same thing we've had for years since 2018, but it's still just that good. But on the other hand, it has so much potential that just hasn't been reached. And in one of my recent videos about the MacBook Air, I talked about how the iPad for me has changed from being this kind of laptop replacement device that I wanted it to be, and changed into being something a little different, or something that I'm not using quite the same. Really, for me, the iPad line has transformed back into just that, an iPad. I'm treating it more as a tablet and a tool that can get me to do other things, and not a one-stop shop device that does everything I need and I don't need any other computers. I'm now using the iPad as a tool, and I think that's where it still really excels. Now, I started thinking about this back with the iPad mini when that was first released, which is something I still use every day, because that I think really takes that tablet nature to the next level. It is the best mini tablet I think you can buy even today. And because of its form factor and size, it's just inherently, you're not really thinking of it as a laptop replacement. You're kind of in the tablet mindset. And after using that device and putting it to tablet tasks, it's really just reinvigorated what the iPad is for me. And instead of trying to, get rid of my laptop, I have found some new use cases for the iPad Pro that I think really just make me happy with this device finally, instead of hoping it was something that it clearly just isn't. Now, I still use the iPad Pro for all the typical, iPad things. So like consuming media, browsing the web, answering emails, all that kind of stuff. I still think it's very good at that when you're like on the couch or sitting in a chair or something. But it has also become my favorite tool that I can take around with me through the house to accomplish very specific tasks. And I think kind of the most obvious one, or the one that even Apple wants you to do, is to use this as kind of like a secondary monitor for your computer. Now, I have an LG C2, which is huge. It's 42 inches. I absolutely love it, although there may be some changes coming there pretty soon for some other monitor, but we'll see. But because it's so big, I don't really need like two monitors. This is plenty of monitor in front of me, but I do like having a little bit more that I can do off to the side. Something I'm not really paying attention to. I don't really need to look at it, but when I want it, I can do that. And that's what I think the iPad is perfect for, with either sidecar, or what I actually use it with is universal control. So I can use my one mouse and keyboard and control the iPad and my Mac just going back and forth. It's really useful. So I can keep things like, Twitter or email or Telegram or anything like that open on the iPad. It doesn't get away, or it doesn't use any of the processing power of my MacBook. Now, to actually do this, I'm using something that ChargeGen Pro sent over, and this is called the MagFloat Pro. This is their latest iPad stand, and I'm sure you've seen this kind of idea floating around, but I think this is definitely the best version of this idea that's really ever been made. So this is a magnetic iPad stand that you can quickly attach and detach your iPad to use in really many different ways, and I'll talk about a few of the different ways that I use it in a second. But having it here on the side of my desk is pretty convenient. But the MagFloat Pro in particular gives me a few conveniences that wasn't really possible with other stands. First is the height adjustability. This is one of the things many people were asking for from this stand, and well, now it has it. So you can easily twist the knob on the back, raise and lower the stand to, keep it wherever you want. And like I said, since I have such a big monitor, if I kept the iPad on the lowest setting like the other stands would, it's not the best look. It doesn't work quite as well. But since I can lift it up more to eye level, works perfectly. Now, what's also great about this is it's really optimized for a desk setup. So they give you this cable that kind of routes the USB-C around back. So you just get a really clean look, which I like a lot. But one other thing that ChargeGen Pro is coming out with is a VESA mount for this stand. So it's the same idea with the magnetic iPad stand, but instead of, having a built-in stand, it uses a VESA mount so you can put it on an arm. Now, I don't have an extra VESA arm right now that I could use this with, but just seeing it, it really opens up a world of possibilities. For instance, this monitor that's behind me is basically the same height as the iPad in its vertical orientation, at least pretty close. So I could have both the monitor and the iPad on a dual VESA arm, have a really clean look, and not have anything cluttering the desk, which is kind of the whole best point of having a VESA arm, at least I think. Where I really think that can come in handy, and where I also use my iPad, is here in the studio. So in my top-down setup, which if you haven't seen my studio tour of this room, I'll leave it linked down below. But I have this, top-down setup where I can film down with a camera, but because the camera is kind of mounted on the ceiling, I can't really see the screen all that well, so I need to route it somewhere else. Now I'm using the Hollyland Mars 400, which is a wireless transmitter. This lets me send the signal from my camera to a screen wirelessly, and since the camera is pretty far away, that's a really great solution for it. But what I really love is that this lets me send the signal to an iPad as well through their app. And that's what I use here in my top-down setup, and that's one of my favorite ways to use the iPad. So when I need to go do some top-down shots, open up the iPad, put it on the stand, and there you go. I can see exactly what I'm filming, make sure everything looks exactly the way I want it to, and it's just really handy. Now right now I'm using the MacBook Pro for this, and it works pretty well, but I could easily see a scenario in the future where I get that VESA attachment and attach it to the table itself, so it's just an even cleaner look. Just, again, so many possibilities. Now the last way I've been using the iPad Pro is kind of as a home hub. Honestly, I probably wouldn't recommend the iPad Pro for this. I'd go for either, the 10th gen iPad or an iPad Air, something a little less expensive, but hey, the iPad Pro is what I have. But this is something that's the Apple ecosystem, especially if you're using HomeKit, just hasn't really had unless you're using something like the iPad. But this is like the ultimate kitchen device. If you're in the Google or Amazon ecosystem, they have solutions for that. And when I was on the Google ecosystem with Google Assistant, I had the home hubs as well, but I didn't really like them. They just felt a little less full featured than I hoped they would be. But, having an iPad gives you all the features that you could possibly want. So I can control music here for the whole house. I can, play slideshows just to make it look nice. I can control things, watch YouTube videos when we're cooking, any of those normal home hub things. Well, the iPad is just really good for that. And having a stand like the MacBook Pro just makes it that much cleaner, that much nicer. There's been rumors that Apple is going to be making something very similar to this on their own, but until that happens, using the iPad, I think, is the next best thing. Now, I want to thank Chargin Pro for sending over these pre-production stands, and when they are officially out, I'm excited to put them to good use. They have a ton of great features and they're really well thought through. Like there's a MagSafe attachment on the stand, so if you wanted to put your phone there, you could easily do that. It's of course rotatable and you can position it in any way you want. It's just really well thought out, and with this new version, the Pro version, they've clearly thought through what they haven't done in the first version, and it's nice to see them make those changes. This is, I think, the go-to iPad stand. And if you want to check it out to learn more or just pick one up for yourself, I'll leave links to the stand down in the description. But yeah, those are just a few of the ways that I've started to use the iPad in my, daily routine. Obviously, there's so much more you can do with it, but most importantly for me, it's kind of this mind state. But really for me, it's just kind of this mindset shift. I'm no longer thinking of the iPad as a strictly laptop device, and I'm using it as a tool that solves problems that I have. So whether you're getting the, base iPad, the iPad mini, or something like the 12.9-inch iPad Pro like I have, there's just so much the iPad can do, and I think if you open the horizons, the possibilities are really endless.